Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the Denali Q&A webinar. My name is Jeremy and I will be doing the webinar today. I'll be your presenter today. The way we're going to be running this show is like we've done webinars in the past. It is a Q&A webinar, so we would encourage you to put your questions in. Just type them in the questions section there of the screen on your little webinar control, and then we'll get to those questions. What we're going to do today is we're going to be answering the questions that have come in. There are some that were emailed to us prior, so to get things started, we'll go ahead and start off with those questions there. But this is just going to be an open session, so if you have any questions about Denali that you would like us to answer at this session, let's go ahead and fill in those questions and we'll get right to those. We only have 1 hour today. We got to wrap things up by 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. That's 1 o'clock Eastern Time or 10 o'clock Pacific Time this morning. So if I don't get to all of your questions, then check our website, because we are going to publish this recording on the website, and we will also put all of the questions and answers there, including questions and answers we didn't get to during the webinars. So we'll make sure we get you all taken care of. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with the Q&A webinar. So our first question on the list today we have is, we have a question here. One of the clients is asking, can benefits in the payroll module be costed to follow the employee wages, or do percentages need to be manually put in? So that's a great question. So we'll go ahead and switch over to the payroll module here, and we'll get that question answered here for you. There we go. Bringing up payroll here. Okay, so for those of you who have the Denali payroll module, the way you set up the benefit codes, and these are benefits, which means they're company paid benefits on behalf of the employee. These are items that are not deducted from the employee's paycheck. If you want to deduct this item from the paycheck, that's a deduction code. But for benefits, you set up a benefit code, and then you create that benefit. Let's see if I can find one. Here's a 401k company match. Perfect example here. So the way you set this up is you determine, how am I going to calculate this benefit? So yes, to answer your question, the benefit can simply be calculated based on a percentage of gross pay that the employee is receiving. You can also select the type of pay under each pay rate: regular pay, other time pay, other time 1 or 2. Other time 1 is typically used for overtime. Vacation, sick, any PTO, any of these other options that you want to calculate this benefit by is available when you're setting up the benefit code. Now, the issue about benefits, though, is it calculates it based on all gross pay for each of these pay types on all pay codes. So there's not an option to break it out on a specific pay code for each employee, but there is an option to break it out by the different pay types. So it'll look at all of their gross pay based on each of these types and calculate the percentage. Now, the actual percentage amount is put in on the employee setup here. So if I find an employee that uses that 401k benefit, because it could be different for each employee. Here's the benefit right here. So for this employee, the system calculates 2% of their gross pay as a benefit that the company matches for their 401k, for example. Here's a health insurance premium benefit. This is a dollar amount, though, not a percentage. So you can set the benefits up to be by percentage or by dollar amount, or even based on the hours worked for the employee. All right, our next question is, client is asking, can we print reports to Excel but have them appear in Excel in the image of a printed report? Right now, that's how they're coming up in Excel, is in the image of a printed report. Is there a way to output the report so that it comes into Excel as data? Very good question, because right now when I go in and print up a report, let's say, for example, I want to go ahead and print up my income statement, or even my trial balance report. That's a good one. So I say, let's print the trial balance report here. Let's go to screen. And that shows up our trial balance here. That's what it looks like when I go to screen, or if I save that as a file. Now, if I was to save it as a file here, and I say, let's go to Microsoft Excel, let's go ahead and run that report, trial balance. Then that's going to be printed, save as a trial balance, but I can choose to save it as an Excel format. So the customer is asking, the problem is when I do that, yeah, that's great, it saves it as an Excel format, but it comes into Excel exactly like we saw on the screen there. And that can be a real hassle to try to get the system to try to get Excel to work with it in a lot of cases, especially for some of the more complex reports that the system is working in. So I'm going to bring up that report here. It's called trial balance here. Right there. There's my report I just saved. So if I launch that in Excel, it looks just like a trial balance report. Now this one is not too bad of an example because the data is somewhat broken out, but as you can see, it's merging cells and it makes it a little hard to work with. Most reports come into Excel exactly as you see here. There's not really a way to change that in the current settings in Denali, but there are some reports that you can save in a more data-like format. And one of those reports is the trial balance we just ran. And the way you do that is you save it as a CSV file instead of as a text file. So now it becomes a comma-separated value file, which will go in as a CSV data format into Excel. The trial balance and the audit trail can be done that way if you run the audit trail in single-line landscape. So if I go single-line landscape, then I've got the CSV option now for the audit trail. But I can save that trial balance or audit trail too. That makes it a lot more workable in Excel because each field is a separate cell in Excel. Now you also have the option to do the spreadsheet export, which takes period totals for the date range you're putting in here and exporting those amounts to a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. So if I run that, then you'll see it gives me period totals in a nice, neat spreadsheet format that I can use to work with in Microsoft Excel. These are not combined, they're not mixed up, and then I can do what I need to with this to generate custom reports from Excel if needed. So there are some options for that, but other reports, it will just show up as just like it does on the screen. Okay, let's see if we've got any current questions that we've got coming in yet. All right, guys, let's go ahead and put in some questions. We'll get some more answers to you. I've still got some more questions that were emailed. We'll get to those here. But it looks like we do have one here that came in from Mary here. She's asking, can you do an aging that way, an aging report? The aging reports from accounts receivable and accounts payable are an example of reports that will go in exactly as you see on screen. So there may be a way to do something in Excel after that, but at this point there's not a way to put those into Excel in a CSV format. Okay. All right, moving on down. Another question, is there a way to add buttons to the point of sale window to add commonly sold stock items? Another good question. So those of you who have the point of sale system, is there a way to add a button to the screen so we can just hit the button rather than having to type in the stock number or scan the stock item in when I go to point of sale? So typically when I go into my point of sale system, then I bring up my register here. This is my cash register. You put in your item, your stock item that you're selling. I can click a drop down and select the item from the list, or I can type in the stock number, or I can scan the item in. But there's also a version, an option in Denali's latest version of point of sale where you can put in the touchscreen buttons, as you can see here. And right here I've got one that's labeled chair. Now what I've done on my system is chair is actually a category. So when I select chair, it brings up a subcategory of chairs and leather chairs, and now I've got buttons for a specific item. If I simply click on this button here, it adds that item to my sale. I can also click on the next one to add the next item, which includes all the information for those items, as you can see there. And how the item is set up will automatically be added to the sale. So yes, there is a way you can add buttons to your screen for the point of sale. And that is done in the point of sale settings under the options menu here. When I go up to options, I can set up my item buttons. I can set those buttons up as a category, or I can set those buttons up as, if I click my edit button, there's my category that goes to chair, or I can set up subgroups of categories as well. And if I select leather chairs, there's all of my leather chairs. Then I can bring up different stock items or set them up as subgroups. So yes, you can create groups, you can create individual stock items, even non-inventory items you can put on buttons that you can set up in your button setup there. Okay, so yes, you can set up buttons if you have a touch screen, or if you don't have a touch screen, you can use the mouse to click the buttons as well. It works either way. All right, let's see what else we have here. Just reading another question that just came in to my questions here. Looks like we have a sales tax question. When Cougar was set up to integrate, all sales tax are going into the withholding accounts instead of the sales tax accounts. How do I fix that? All right, good question from Karen. When I post sales tax, how do I get it to post to the correct liability accounts for the sales tax? That is a great question. The way that needs to be done is you go up to the options menu in the sales tax codes here in the sales module, and you can see all of your sales tax will post to the appropriate accounts set up here in the sales tax code. Now, because I've got accounts payable integrated, I'm posting it to a vendor instead. So what happens there is it looks at the AP code for the vendor, and that's the liability account that will post to. If I turn off my integration to accounts payable, which most clients do, by the way, for sales, they turn off the AP integration because they don't want their sales tax to post to vendors. They just want them to go straight to a liability account. Now, when I set up my sales tax codes, this is the liability account number that I can select for the specific sales tax. So I got a California sales tax, Idaho sales tax, there you go. And mine is set up to go to my liability account number 2290. Let's take a look at that. That is sales tax payable right there in the general ledger. So that's how you fix that, Karen. If it's going to the wrong account, go here to the sales tax code, change the account number on that to the correct account, and it will change that so all postings going forward will go to the correct account for you. And then we got a question from Hannah. How did you have the comments automate to the items you rang up? Little trick you saw there, huh? That's a great question. All right. So what she's talking about is when I go in and put in an item, it populated those comments automatically for me. For example, when I put in my chair one swivel, and I hit tab, and look at this. Nope, that one didn't do it. Let's try the leather chair. Folding leather chair. That item didn't have any comments. That one doesn't either. All right, we're going to go to the button. We'll find it. Executive chair. Hey, there it is. Includes 4 massage modes. How does that comment automatically populate when I put this item in? That is a great question. The way that's done is when you set up the item in inventory. Okay, what item was that again? That is my leather executive chair with arms and massage. When I set up the item in inventory, this is my inventory item setup. There's my item there. What I want to do is I can put in extra descriptions right here. And there's my comment right there. So I put in the extra descriptions. I can have up to 4 additional lines of comments for that item. And if I want to include those comments on sales, I just check my box here to include that item. And I set it to always use those comments when it's including that particular line item on the sale. So that's how you set that up. If you want to add additional comments to your sale automatically, you just type it in the Extra Descriptions tab. Make sure you include it in Sales and Always Use. You can also include it on the purchase orders as well for your purchase order module if you're generating purchase orders for these items. Okay, some great questions coming in so far. Keep them coming, guys. We still got some more time here, so. All right, let's see what else we got here. Good question. Talking about accepting donations. What is the best way to accept donations? Would we want to create a tax-exempt inventory code and have it at 0 cost and the retail and then price override anytime someone wants to make a donation? Yeah, that's a good question. There's so many different ways you can enter donations. A lot of our nonprofit clients that use our fund accounting suite, then they actually have several different methods for putting donations in. So one method they can use is if they don't need to track who the donation came from, they can just simply enter a bank deposit and code that to the revenue account that you're tracking donations from under Enter Bank Activity. If you do need to track that to a particular person that's making that donation, you simply set up that person as a customer. And then you can simply enter a customer charge in accounts receivable with the payment for that donation. Now, if you have the sales module, which a lot of our nonprofit customers do not have the sales module. So if you do, though, if you have the sales module and you want to track contributions or donations, you can do it through the cash register under a non-inventory code or even an inventory item. Or you can do it through the order entry system if you don't have the point of sale. Go back to the order entry system and just enter it in as an order, basically, which is like a cash sale. Or you can track that to a customer from accounts receivable. Now, again, if you need to track who is making the contribution, you must put that to a customer in accounts receivable. Actually, a better way to answer that question would be to switch over real quick to our nonprofit suite. And I can show you how that's been set up here. I actually have that set up for nonprofit here. So when I'm tracking donations or contributions, and you can do this in for-profits as well. You don't have to be a nonprofit fund accounting. I just have these already set up in nonprofit, so this is the best way to track that. What I've done here on my system is I've set up, so we're going to put in a customer here that's making a contribution. I've set up some non-inventory codes here for contributions. Federal fund contribution, perfect example. So the way I've set this up, if you look at the settings, I've set this to go to a specific revenue account for general contributions under the federal fund in my nonprofit system. Or whatever revenue account you want to use in your system, you can do that. I have a default price of 0 because the donation could vary. It could be a variable contribution. And I am not calculating sales tax on this item, so I do not have my taxable box checked there. So I simply put in that code there, and now, because I am authorized to put in the price, I can put in whatever that contribution is for that price. Then I can go ahead and close that sale out as a cash, check, credit card donation. Man, I could even bill the customer for this donation. If it's like they made a pledge that they're going to contribute, then I can go ahead and just bill their account in AR, and when that payment comes in, just enter it in as a regular AR payment like you do any other payments through the accounts receivable. You can set it up either any of these other types, though, if you prefer to do it that way. And that way it will track it correctly to the correct revenue source. Edit report, that's what I want to show you. So here's the general ledger impact for that sale. Oh, I've got another one in there too. So there's some other transactions it's looking at too. So as you can see here, general contributions, it's tracking to the correct revenue. There's the credit. And then there's my debit for the debit side there. Undeposited funds for the cash, since I rang it up as a cash sale. So there's the transaction that we just looked at. The other items here you see are other transactions that we've put in the system here. There was a $25 one, it looks like. So. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay. When inventory is added to accounts payable, it is not being reflected in inventory. How do we fix this? That is a good question. That should be reflected in inventory, but of course it depends on how you add it through the accounts payable system. So, a couple of things I want to show you here. We'll show you how that's going to work. You know what, I'm in the wrong company here. Hang on just a sec, guys. Switch back to my for-profit, where I've got my inventory tracking set up correctly. Okay. So I received some inventory, and I'm going to enter an invoice for that inventory. I'm going to create a new batch here so we don't mix things up here. So my supplier for this inventory that I received is, well, let me see, what inventory am I receiving? Let's take a look here. Leather chair, no arms. Folding, let's go with folding leather chair, that works. So Harris Office is my supplier for my folding leather chairs. As you can see, I've got 26 on hand right now, 25 available. That's what I'm showing here. Now, I received some more in from Harris Office. Invoice number. And the invoice number, due date, everything in there. Now, if I'm entering in the items like this, folding leather chair, I received 10 of those in at $49 each. If I enter them in this way, this is not 1099 applicable, then the system is going to just do a direct expense for these items. It will not add them to inventory. So to add these items to inventory, what I need to do is I need to change my line type to inventory. Now it's asking for a stock number right there. See that? Folding leather chair. Now remember, I've got 25 available right now. So if I select the stock number here, rather than just typing it in as a direct expense, I'm going to add 10 of those. It automatically remembers the last cost. But hey, I got these for $49. They were on sale. I got a really good deal for them. Now I don't need an expense account, because if I go over here, my expense account is my inventory asset account for that item. So it automatically populates. When I save and post this transaction, it will add 10 of those to my inventory. And I'll show you that here. All right, so there's my posting report for accounts payable. This is my invoice from Harris Office, invoice number, invoice date, and the total amount for $490. But look at this. I now have an inventory posting as well. We just added 10 of these items of $49 each to my inventory. So it should be adding those to inventory. If you select inventory as the line item, that's the important part. And then, of course, the general ledger shows me a credit to accounts payable and a debit to the inventory asset. So it does add those to inventory. And to verify that, we can now bring up our folding leather chair, and look at that. I now have 35 available. I just added 10, 36 on hand. Still have one committed, 35 available. And if I check my history, sort this out by date here, I should see the transaction right there for $49 each, $490 in my inventory history from accounts payable. I also now have a cost quantity that's included that. Looks like I'm doing average quantity or average pricing on this instead of FIFO, so I don't have a breakdown because this is weighted average. But if it was FIFO, you would see a separate line item for those 10 I just added. But for weighted average, it's not going to do that. Yeah, WA, that's my weighted average code. So it just combines the cost into a weighted average number in my cost quantity. Last cost was also updated to $49 because that's what I received them in at. So if you do it that way, and if your inventory integration is turned on, it should do that. It should put those in there correctly. So, okay. So next question I've got here, why are current costs entered in accounts payable not showing in inventory, and how do we fix that? Same thing there. If you add the item to inventory, it should also put in the current cost, which we just showed you there as the last cost. And if it's FIFO, it will show that broken out separately on the cost quantity. So next question we have here is, can you reprint posting after you post invoices? Let me go back one more to that last question about the inventory. If you're still having trouble with that, then definitely contact customer support and we can look at that for you to see why it's not working. Because if everything is integrated and you're using inventory line items, that should be posting to inventory correctly. So just wanted to clarify that. Okay, next question from Thelma. Can you reprint posting after you post your invoices? Well, Thelma, yes and no. To be honest with you, there's not an easy way to reprint invoices from the sales module after you post your invoices. Unless you're talking about accounts payable, same thing. There's not really a way to reprint those. Once you post those invoices, you'll get that posting report, and that's it. However, when you do post a batch and you get that posting report, there is an option to save that report, just like any other report. So if I post something here, let's see if I have anything in this batch here. I don't have anything here, so we'll throw one in real quick. Get the right button here. And we'll throw in an expense, $500. Good here with the expense account. Yeah, that works. Okay. So I post my invoice here. Same with the order entry. This works exactly the same as well. Here's my posting report. This is a one-time deal. If I don't print this report now, I will not be able to print it. However, if I go to screen, it brings it up on the screen. And you notice when it comes up on the screen, it goes into your Adobe program because it's a PDF file that comes up on the screen. So before you close this window, close this report, there is an option in Adobe to come up here and save this report to any location you want to save it to, and that way you can always reprint it over and over again anytime in the future if it has been saved. So that is the best way. If you need to have access to those posting reports, make sure you save those by going to screen and then selecting from the file menu at the top the Save As option here. And it will save that report as a PDF file that you can print over and over again in the future. Same with the GL posting right there. There's my GL posting. If I save this, Save As, then I can tell it what I want to call it, where I want to save it to, and I go ahead and save that file. Then I can reprint that at any time in the future. We do have clients that have folders on their server that they save their posting reports to, and those folders are organized and the files are named by date and module so that they can keep track. A lot of times they'll organize the folders by module and put in the file names by date. That way they can go back and reprint those postings anytime in the future. So that's my recommendation. Go to screen, even have the default set to go to screen like mine is, as you can see, and use the Save As option before you close the report. Because once I hit this X and close the report, I'm done. I can't get it again. Now there is one other option in General Ledger where you can actually run a reprint posting report, but it's not the individual posting when you do that. It's basically all postings combined in a single report for the date range you're running it for. I can also filter it out by module as well. So for example, I can run an AP posting just for today. I can get my keyboard to work here. then I can reprint. This is only the general ledger posting, remember, from AP. I'm only using AP. I'm doing all items that posted today from the AP module to the general ledger module. I can run this in general ledger at any time. But as you can see, there's several items here because it combines everything from AP that posted on this day into a single report. So you can do like a daily reprint posting from each module using this option here. Okay. Next question we have here. Client is asking about a cloud installation. They have a cloud installation, so how do they get the Excel and Word options to work? When you're saving your reports as Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, if this is what you're talking about here, Word or Excel, it will still save those as a document or an XLS document or a PDF document. That's fine. But you must have Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel installed on your cloud workstation that you're working on in order to open those files. Same with your Excel export. If I go up here and use the export option I showed earlier in the webinar, the spreadsheet export, I must have Microsoft Excel installed on the cloud workstation. So if you're using Centec, you just simply log into your Centec workstation and install Microsoft Excel. And then you will be able to run that, or Microsoft Word as well. Centec is a cloud option that we do offer our clients here. So. In accounts receivable, some of the customer cards have old items from past years. Last year, when we closed out for the year, I did a purge, but there are still old invoices in with no old credits to offset them. What is the best way to clean these up? Great question, Karen. In the accounts receivable module, when you purge open items, it gets rid of all items that have a zero balance remaining, which means invoices or charges that are paid in full, or any credits that have already been applied, so the credit has a zero amount remaining as well. However, if you have old stuff in there that does not have a zero amount remaining, where there is actually a balance due on that particular invoice, the system will not purge that item. It'll leave it in there. Same with purge history. It works the same way. It cannot purge those items if they have an amount remaining. So how do I get rid of those items? The easiest way to get rid of those items is to go into that customer's, or go into enter transactions in accounts receivable, find the customer that has old items. Let's say this customer has old items that I want to get rid of. And I look at the customer balance. If I want to just zero out that balance, I just enter a credit for the balance amount, customer credit for the total amount of their account balance, $53.15 in this example. And I just simply hit save and post that credit. Now, if I don't come down here and select what to apply it to, Denali will automatically apply that credit to all open items, and it will zero those out for you. So you can go ahead and clean those up. Or if I do want to select what to apply those to, I can go ahead and say, yeah, let's go ahead and check the items that I want to apply it to. Then it will let me manually select what to apply it to. But that's not necessary if you use a 5 credit code. It must be a 5 credit. It cannot be a 7. It must be a 5. If you use a 7, it will not apply to anything. But a 5 will apply automatically or allow you to select manually what to apply it to here. So the easiest way, just put in a 5 credit code, whatever credit code you want to use for that. Remember, the credit code also determines what account is going to get the debit for that credit. In this case, my sales account is going to get the debit, which means I'm going to reduce my revenue by crediting my customer's account. So if I don't want that account to get the revenue, I need to look at a different code with a different account, for example. Well, I don't want to do that one because it's just going to debit and credit the same account there. So some of these I can see are not set up correctly. Yeah, see all these 1100s, it's going to debit and credit the same account. You don't want to have an 1100 in your AR transaction codes, the AR account itself. So these are all set up wrong. Finance charge, there's a good example. That's going to debit my finance charge revenue. Reduce that revenue if I'm crediting back the finance charge. So a 5 code is the easiest way to clean that up. Okay, good question from John. Can you demonstrate how your new email module works with emailing out pay stubs to employees? Well, unfortunately, John, I don't have the new email module set up for employee pay stubs, but I do have it set up on here. Denali delivery, there it is. Okay, perfect. So the email module, what this is this is a way to email out like invoices to customers, statements to customers, purchase orders to vendors, or paycheck stubs to employees. It's a great option because you can invoice everything in a current batch all at once using this option. So here we go. The way this works is you run your payroll in the Denali payroll module, just like you normally do. Before you post the payroll, then you're going to open up the Denali email delivery tool, and you're going to go ahead and run your employee dashboard, or your email dashboard here. Now, when I run the email dashboard, what I want to do is I want to do pay stubs, but unfortunately my system is not set up for pay stubs, so all I have is invoices, statements, or purchase orders. If you set it up for pay stubs, you'll also see the pay stub option from payroll as well. You select that option, and then this will change to employee if it says if you have pay stubs. I'll show you an example. If I change it to purchase order, this changes to vendor now instead of customer. Pay stubs will change to employee. You can do a range of employees or just leave that start to end like you do everything else. Leave it blank like you do everything else in Denali. Put in the date range that you're running it for. Today's the 15th. So if I'm only doing pay stubs for today, then I put in the date range here of just today. And then I select the batch from my payroll from the drop down here. Now, this is why you do it before posting. Make sure you haven't posted your payroll when you do this first. I select the batch, and then when I put that in, it automatically populates all the employees' pay stubs down here in my grid, just like it does in the payroll grid. But it shows you here the pay stub is what we're emailing out. And once I've selected that, I just simply click Send Email here at the bottom, and it will send out all the pay stubs to the employees, each one to each employee, one at a time. That's our new email delivery system. Let's see if I have anything in the current batch in order entry. So I'm going to go all the way back to the first of the year. And look, I do have some batches. So this is invoices in order entry. So when I populate that, then I click Load Data, and there's only one in there. So there's one invoice I'm about to email to my customer. You do have some options. I can click this button to print that invoice. I can click here to preview it. So this just actually shows me the actual invoice on the screen, just like it would in Denali if I was to preview it there. Or else I can go ahead and click this button to go ahead and email just this one. If I hit this button down here, it emails all of them. Oh, you have to select it first. So yes, you have to make sure it's selected here. And the top bar will select all of them for you. And then I just email those there. And it'll email those to the email address as it shows here. The email address is set up in the customer account maintenance, or if you're doing pay stubs in the employee maintenance, it reads from that email field. Email address from the vendor maintenance if you're doing purchase orders. So that's a new little feature we just added for email delivery. You can get that feature if you want to add that feature to your Denali system. Just contact your account representatives. Okay, question from Sonia. Please go over reoccurring GL entries. We have followed the Denali GL user guide and cannot get it to work. All right, yes, I can do that for you because that's a simple one here. Reoccurring entries in general ledger. You simply check this box to generate those journal entries that are reoccurring. But in order to use the reoccurring journal entry system, the first thing you must do is you must have multi-batch mode turned on. General ledger is the only module that requires this for reoccurring entries. The reason why is because it uses a batch for the reoccurring templates. And you can create as many different reoccurring batches as you want to with different journal entries in those batches that you want to run for reoccurring. So what you do in this case is you activate multi-batch mode. Remember, before you do, make sure all your current batches that you're working in are posted from General Ledger. Now, of course, in single batch mode, you only have one batch at a time, so make sure that batch is posted or cleared out before coming in here and activating multi-batch. I don't know why I have that box checked. That's a no-no. So I've got multi-batch mode on. Now, what I do is when I go in to enter a journal entry, it asks me to select a batch that I want to enter a journal entry, or I can create a new batch. Now, this is just entering regular journal entries. But if I want to create reoccurring entries that I want to process over and over again, I first have to set those up. So to set those up, I'm going to create a reoccurring batch by simply checking this box. Now, if you check this box and create a reoccurring batch, please, I highly recommend, change the identity to label what these reoccurring journal entries are for. Put that here in the identity. Don't just leave the user ID and time of day, because that's not going to tell you any information when you go to generate. So we'll call this reoccurring batch for webinar. There you go. So now when I save select, it's going to pop up my journal entry just like it normally does, and I go ahead and enter my journal entries just like I would. So let's go ahead and throw one in here. Let's debit cash on hand, $500. I'm making these real simple just so that we can show you how this works, and we'll credit sales 500. There's one. Now we can do another one here. Let's debit what should we do here? Travel advance. That's a good one to debit. $300, and we will credit. Let's credit one of my expense accounts here. Travel expense. There you go. So I'm moving it from the expense to an advance. We're going to credit that expense there. Save that one there. And of course, you can fill in a description for each transaction as well. So I got 2 transactions in my reoccurring batch. Watch what happens when I go to post. The system says, you are currently assigned to a reoccurring batch. Reoccurring batches cannot be posted. Why is that? Because the reoccurring batch is where we save our templates, and we don't want to post the template. We want to post those entries in a regular general ledger batch, not in a reoccurring batch. We want to enter them in the reoccurring batch so that they're saved as a template. But now I'm going to switch to a regular batch here, like this one, for example. And now I'm in this batch. Do I have any transactions in this batch right now? Nope, no transactions. So I can go ahead and manually do my journal entries in this batch like I normally would and post them. Or, because I've now saved them in a template, I can just simply generate reoccurring batch. I've got one here for the webinar. That's the one I just set up there. I can also do this reoccurring batch as well, all in my current batch that I'm in now. But I don't want to do that one. I just want to do this one to show you how that works. I want to generate new posting reference numbers for these transactions, and I simply click generate, and bam, I've just added those 2 journal entries to my current batch automatically. And there they are, 1 and 2. So if I select that one, there it is. There's the other one right there. Now I can go ahead and post those without any problem. And there's my posting report. So let's say I come back in a few days or next month or whatever, and I want to generate those same entries. Let's say I've got 50 journal entries I've saved in a reoccurring batch. This is where it gets exciting, because now I can just hit generate. Now, what batch am I generating these in? I have an open batch right here, or I can do it in a new batch. Let's see, I want to generate this one. Generate new numbers, generate. I just barely generated those 2 transactions automatically, and now I can go ahead and post them. Of course, I can run my edit report first before posting to see what I just did. But I can just go ahead and post, and there they are. This time I'll show you the posting report so you can see it. There it is. So if you've got 30 or 40 journal entries that you need to generate automatically every month or every week or however often they need to be generated, then you can create a reoccurring batch in the journal entry, set up a new batch, just mark it reoccurring, enter all those journal entries as templates, and then save them. Then switch to the regular batch. Here's a regular batch, or create a new batch. Then you can just simply generate those as many times as you need to in the future because they're saved in that reoccurring batch. If I want to remove those entries from a reoccurring batch, or if I want to delete them altogether, then I can switch to the reoccurring batch and I can click here to make any changes to those entries that are my templates right here. I can even delete the entry if I need to. So General Ledger's reoccurring system is a little different than the other modules. It's basically just another batch, that's all it is, but it can never be posted. So once you set up that reoccurring batch, it'll always be open. It'll always be there. Now, if you want to get rid of the whole batch, because you're never going to use that again, that entire batch, you can switch to it like I just did here. I'm in my reoccurring batch, and now I can go ahead and remove that batch if I never want to use it again. You do that just like clearing any other batch. If you need to clear any other batch in the system, you just clear journal entries and you check this box to delete the batch itself. Okay. Another good question. Can you email past pay stubs or old invoices? We're talking about the email system again. Yes, you can actually. Get to the right one here. When I go to Denali Delivery, you'll notice here what it does when I go to my dashboard. I always want to make sure I do it before posting. Select the batch I'm in, do it before posting. Or I can select history here. Now when I go to history, then I can generate. What you want to do though is be careful, because if you go to history and you say just generate all, it's going to probably put thousands of pay stubs on here. So always put in the employee up here that you want to send it to, or a range of employees. Or you can just do it by date. Make sure if you do just a single payday, you can do all employees that got paid on that one day. For example, if we had a payday of, say, July 16th or something, then make sure you put July 16th on both fields here. And that way, all I'm going to see that's refreshed in my grid are pay stubs from July 16th. Let's see if I have any invoices from order entry from July 16th. I don't have any, so. But that's how it works. And then it'll only show the ones from that day. You can go ahead and send those out that way. You just do that by going to the History tab here instead of the Current tab. All right. So moving on down our questions here. I've got a few minutes left. We're getting down to about 7 minutes remaining, so we'll keep continuing to answer questions until we can get through them all, or until 11 o'clock. If we don't get through them all by 11 o'clock, remember, check back on our website. We will have the rest of the answers posted there. Okay, next question from Jennifer. In payroll, how would you set up a benefit code for 401k match that is not a straight percentage? For example, a contribution of 25% up to 4% of the employee contribution. Good question. So it needs to basically be a percentage of another benefit, right? Okay. Unfortunately, payroll does not have a way to link benefits together like that. So my recommendation is it's going to be 25% of the employee contribution up to 4% of their contribution. Let's see if I can understand that right, Jennifer. A contribution of 25% up to 4% of the employee contribution. Okay, so I don't know if I quite understand what we're saying there. If you mean 4% of their wage, because that's what the employee contribution is, as you saw on that one that I was showing here. Let me show you here. Yeah, see, so in this example, the employee is deducting 4% out of their gross pay and putting it into their 401k. The company is matching 2% of their gross pay to that 401k as well. So what you're saying is maybe the company pays 25% of what the employee pays. In that case, you'd have to do the math and just say it's only 1% of their gross pay, because that's 25% of 4%. That would be 1% of their gross pay. That's basically the only way it can be done, because benefits can only be linked to the gross pay itself rather than to the actual, rather than to another benefit or deduction code on the system. There's other options though. You can set the benefit up as a variable amount, and then you can do the math on your end and type in how much you need that to be calculated for on that employee for each paycheck. You can do it based on variable units as well. So there are other options to set up those benefits, but there is no way at this time to link one benefit to another benefit or deduction code. Okay, Sonia popped up a question, said, it is telling me I cannot generate a reoccurring batch. I'm not sure what the problem is with that is, Sonia. Just double check to make sure that you're in multi-batch mode. If you are, then go ahead and contact customer support and see if they can help with that, because it should allow you to do that, unless you don't have any reoccurring batches saved in your system there. So, for example, if I click here, generate reoccurring, if I don't have, and look at this, I can't generate it. That's what you're getting. Okay. All right. Good thing we found that. The reason why we're getting that, generate into a reoccurring batch, because the current batch that I'm currently in is a reoccurring batch. I can't generate reoccurring activity in a reoccurring batch. I have to switch to a regular batch to generate reoccurring activity. So I'll switch to a regular batch, and then it lets me do it. So check that. See if that's what the problem is there, Sonia. If that doesn't fix it, then contact customer support to see if we can get that to take care of. Yeah, that's nice that that came up while we were on the line here. All right, let's see. Let's answer one more question from our email here. Okay, a good question we just got in from the email. Will Denali notify upon entering invoices that the invoice number is a duplicate rather than waiting until the posting process? You're probably talking about accounts payable or accounts receivable or order entry, either one. Unfortunately, no. The system does allow you to put whatever you want as the invoice number. It does not warn you of that until you post. Because remember, when you're entering current information into the current batch, if I'm entering invoices in accounts payable, for example, or orders in order entry, either way, then I can go ahead and put in my invoice number here of what that is. Now that's supposed to technically be what the vendor invoice number really is. But if they don't have one and you're making that up on your own, then the invoice number will need to be a unique number, of course. If it's been used before, then the system will not let you post the transaction. But it does not tell you that until you go to post. So there's not an option there for that to automatically pop up that that number's been used before. You have to run the posting process to get that. All right, so we are just about out of time now, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up today. So we'll switch over here. I know there's a few more questions that have come in. Okay, one more question real quick. You talked me into it. How could I rebank rec the month I already reconciled? How do you want to re-reconcile, or do you want to reprint the reconciliation? If you want to reprint the reconciliation for a month that's already reconciled, again, there's not any way to do that after it's posted. Make sure you save those reconciliation reports just like you do the posting reports I was showing you earlier when you go to save that. Save that report under a PDF Save As option in the PDF reader that you're using. Then you can post. And that way you'll always have access to those reports. Once you post a reconciliation, it's done. If something was not done correctly on the reconciliation, what you'll need to do is rebuild your bank account total under this option here, and then just run that same reconciliation again. All the items that have already been cleared will already be cleared though, so it's only going to show items that are not cleared that should have been. Any items that are missing, you'll have to enter those in, and then they'll show up on the reconciliation. So make sure that the reconciliation is done right. If you need to reprint a reconciliation report anytime in the future, make sure you save those after the reconciliation is done before you post. And that should take care of that. If you do need further help on that, give us a call. Customer service is 1-800-390-7053, and we can definitely get you taken care of. You can set up an appointment with me to do training on that, or you can have one of our support reps help you that day if it's urgent. So they can open a ticket and get right back to you that day. All right, it's been a pleasure, guys. We'll go ahead and wrap this up now, get you taken care of. It is 11 o'clock, time to end our webinar. We do have other webinars that we've done in the past. Go to our website here, cougarmountain.com/monthly webinar series, if you want to review the previous webinars that we've done in the past, the recordings. There's a lot of different information in there. There's other videos you can look at as well. It's great information if you need help with that. Make sure that you, if you have any questions or comments, contact your account representative at 1-800-388-3038, or you can email them at sales@cougarmountain.com. And check the website, cougarmountain.com, for follow-up communication for this webinar, including answers to any questions we didn't get to. Also, you will see this webinar added to the other webinars we have on there as well once we get that published up there. It'll take a few days, but it should be there shortly. So, okay, so with that, it's been a pleasure. We'll go ahead and close out. Thank you all for attending, and you guys all have a great day.